Well, welcome to Might Be Awesome. My name is Sam Basher.
My name is DJ Wooldridge.
And here's Miss Trisha Hirschberger. Thank you for joining us and being a part of this show, and thank you for joining us, because today we're talking about the biggest, longest to-date episode of Game of Thrones. That's episode 803, The Long Night. The Night King and his army have arrived at Winterfell, and the great battle begins. Overall thoughts, kicking it off. Trisha, how was this for you? Dark? Yes, it's dark.
It was dark, yes.
More ways than one.
This is going to sound horrible, but I felt I had mixed feelings on this episode because I thought it was going to be a whole lot worse. And I say it's going to sound horrible because I don't want it to come across like I'm disappointed more people didn't die. Because I'm very happy that more people didn't die. But also I felt like it was a little unrealistic given how many people were slaughtered in Winterfell that only some of our, let's say, B-level characters... besides Jorah, were the ones to bite it.
Yeah.
But, like, I thought I was bracing for much worse, and maybe because of that, I felt a little, not let down, but it was just, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
We prepared ourselves, like, the past two episodes for, like, losing a good chunk.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
a
that's
third
like,
of our cast.
I was saying, like, the Red Wedding all over again, but
Yeah.
Winterfell. Just everybody going to die.
I think that struggle, and maybe the specifics will be different for different people, but I think that struggle is going to be real for a majority of the audience, in that I think this episode was always going to struggle with expectation. We've been building to this since literally the first scene of the first episode, and book readers for decades.
Yes.
Like how long? So
Uh-huh.
like, I think I think this was going to be a little bit of a letdown no matter what. But I also had mixed feelings, but more in kind of the pacing. There was tremendously cool moments, but I felt like a very distinctive creative decision that, like, instead of like two pitched armies, it's an army versus just a wave of bodies. Let's make it feel chaotic, feel overwhelming, and I think that kind of sapped some of the battle of some of its coherence and some of its energy for me. And that dinged it a little bit, even though I overall did enjoy the episode.
I enjoyed it, but I have mixed feelings as well. But I think where this episode shines is when they're able to kind of like make it like, oh, now it's just a horror movie for one person, so we can focus on like Arya trying to escape the library. It's a good way of like, what's happening outside? It's raining dead bodies. Like we know that's what's happening. We just need to let's focus on this character. That way we can kind of quantify what the threat is. Like we can understand that there are, let's say, 8 walkers in here. Let's see if we can get around them. Walkers? We'll call them that. That's
whites.
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 Those are the whites.
They're
No,
whites.
white walkers
are the
makeup guys.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, those are the band members. I appreciate that we are kind of able to break that down, and there were still character moments, but overall it felt weirdly safe. Except for when it wasn't for specifically Lyanna Mormont. She was the one who bit
that was the death that got you.
She bit it the worst out of every character on screen.
But took down a frost giant.
Yeah, that was
pretty awesome.
And I like the juxtaposition. You saw a couple out there that were getting just torched.
Yeah.
They were, and that was cool. I like that. I like the World War Z aspect to the White Walkers. I thought that was, or to the Whites. I like that they were just kind of coming out as a wave.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, but it like World War Z. Sometimes you're like, what is happening? Like, what am I looking at exactly?
I think the parts of the episode that succeeded the most for me were, like you said, when we kind of zeroed in on characters. And I also think maybe that was another issue too. Is typically the big battles, it's like 2 people you care about on one side and 2 people you care about on another side, and this one was like literally basically every character's here at this moment, and we don't have time to focus on most of them, really. Like, so it's,
I feel like we saw Brienne for like half a second.
Yeah, and Sam twice every time he's just overwhelmed. Like, no,
he's rolling. He's rolling on the ground. Like, Sam, there's no way that you're alive right now because these zombies are armed.
But I liked the mood stuff, specifically at the beginning where it's you're just facing a wall. I thought that's where the darkness was effective, where it's literally just a wall of night. And then Melisandre, I liked when Melisandre rolls up, because at first you think, is like a White Walker coming to negotiate? Like, and then it's her, and she lights their swords on fire, and then the Dothraki roll out. And I immediately had a moment of like, no, this is actually really bad, because whenever you have like a good thing happen first, it's like, oh, then it's just bad. You want to start with a bad thing because that means later it's going to get good. Like, you don't want to start with a positive thing, and then one by one you see the lights go out, and you're like,
Yeah, I agree with you. I loved the use of darkness for that part specifically, where the Dothraki are extinguished, if you will. I thought that was a very, very foreboding feeling, and we were right where Jon and Dany are, and it put us in a great spot to see Dany be like, yeah, no, we said we were going to hold off on dragons, but like all my people just died.
Yeah.
So,
which I had a question: is her Dothraki? Are those all the Dothraki, or are there still Dothraki over in Essos?
There's gotta be one splinter group.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of them.
It's a lot of them.
That are gone.
Ooh.
That's real. Yeah,
we
real.
don't cross the ocean, but come on, don't be babies. Come on, it's fine over here. No, is bad. And can I ask, just get this out of the way, where was Melisandre? Are you guys okay with the way that she just kind of, and I'm here now, and I am also, I'm here, I light the trench, then I peace out to just a room and hide out to give off some information to Arya, and then at the end I get dusted like that.
I was okay with it only because I feel like she prepared us for that.
Mm-hmm.
Before she left in season 7, she said, I will come back one last time and then I will die here.
Contractually, I'll come back one more time.
Like she told us that's what was going to happen. So of course, when we're battling the Night King, you're like, well, that's obviously when she has to come back. She does fire stuff, so we're fighting an Ice King. So she came back. I expected it. And then I tried to believe that when she was just in that room with Arya and Beric and the Hound, that she was waiting for them there because she knew that was going to happen. Yeah. Not just like that she dropped in. Because, I guess now we are to believe that Arya is the prince that was promised.
Yeah, you were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, which I guess was a way bigger deal in the books than it was in the show, because I was like, how is no one talking about this? She's the reincarnation of Azor Ahai! And like, I'm freaking out. And then Melisandre, who's the only person who could have maybe shed some light on that, takes off her necklace and dies. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're just not answering that question. But then when I was reading an article that said that was way more built up in the books, it made a lot more sense why the show might just let it go. Kind of like Ghost.
Yeah, so
he was let it go.
And then all of a sudden he got distracted by something and he went off in the
Wait,
woods.
So before we dive deeper in the episode, since you brought it up, her being the prince that is promised, I know we've discussed it before on our other Game of Thrones shows. Does that mean anything past taking out the Night King? Is there more to that?
So it's a very vague prophecy.
Or did she fulfill her prophecy and now we don't have to worry about it anymore?
No, I think she fulfilled the prophecy. But it was that it was the reincarnation of this Lord of Light hero from the past, and who's it going to be? And that's kind of why, like, Melisandre's whole thing was finding the prince that was promised. She originally thought it was Stannis. Yeah. Then she thought Jon, and then maybe Dany. So then to just have it at the very last second be like, oh, no, wait, it's this one, and I kind of knew it all along. It's like, no, you didn't. We had no hint you knew that was that. What? Beyond you saying I see darkness in you in season 3 or whatever.
And thank you for the reminder, too, because when she was like, oh, yeah, we remember when we spoke before, I'm like, no, but probably. Like, that probably happened. I don't remember. And then you mentioned Gendry, like, that whole, like, interaction. Like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, she said the eyes thing back then, too. Although I believe she said the eyes in a different order in season 3 than she did in last night's episode.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people are speculating brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes, which I believe is what she said in season 3. But last night she ended with blue eyes. Yeah. So all the people that are taking the brown, blue, green and saying, oh, it's Walder Frey, the Night King, Cercei.
Ooh.
That maybe that's what Melisandre was prophesying in that moment.
We'd have to go back and look at their eyes.
Well, I mean, those are the accurate eye colors.
Wow, that's crazy.
But I'm like, is Frey big enough of a threat to get on the top 3?
I mean, he wasn't a Harry Potter movie, so maybe.
I mean,
it was also getting to use the faceless skills. I do like. I think my favorite. The use of Arya in this episode, I think, was a real standout, and kind of like her using her weapon to like ninja a bunch of whites away, and then getting conked on the head, and just for a brief, like a chunk of the episode, just trying to survive, and then having her big hero moment, which was so cool.
But big hero moment. Yeah. How the hell did all those other whites just be like, hey, Come on in.
No, but that's the thing. You see the little hair. She's moving. She's doing her ninja skills, so they don't even notice she's there. You see the little waft of hair, and they don't even register her. She's so tiny.
And they did show in the library that they respond to sound, it seems, more than vision.
Yeah.
So I guess if she was being super quiet and sneaky,
all
maybe
those
they wouldn't
faceless
have known.
skills coming in last minute.
And set up like a Tarzan swing to kind of swing in on a vine. Because how did she? Where'd she? What? Seriously?
I don't.
Where did she come from?
None of that bothers me.
I know.
None of that bothers me.
Hey, it's just saying. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Just saying. She had some air.
Yeah.
She had some leaps.
Yeah.
It's just saying.
She
got jumps.
Her Gendry weapon was not a dragon killing weapon.
No.
So as we were talking about before, no one planned for the ice dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Not a damn person was like, hey, there's an ice dragon coming. We should probably find a way to stop that.
One of the trebuchets should probably have something that could take it out.
The plan was the other two dragons. And I kind of like that where we need to wait for the Night King to show up. And then Dany's like, time out. I'm just going to go. Just give me, and honestly, I'm kind of glad she did because they were getting wrecked. Like until she shows up.
And it's very on character for Dany to be like, I know we said we were going to have restraint, but I don't really do that very well.
Restraint's not my jam.
Yeah.
It also helped us see what was happening in the battle.
Yeah, it also lit some stuff up.
Light it up. There you go.
Yeah.
Anytime there was fire, it's like, thank God I can see.
Yeah.
And DJ, you brought up something about this earlier.
Yeah, it was an article I read online that I think made a very good point that when they edit these episodes, a lot of prestige TV shows edit them as if they're movies, which is nice. Mm-hmm. But when you're watching a movie, you're on one of the brightest projectors you could find in a completely pitch black room. And that's not how most people are even capable of watching TV. Like it's not a reality. And so I know, I don't know if I'd go as far to say it's unfair. I know people are like, it's unfair. You should think about the viewer. You should think about the viewer. And it's tough for something like that. Like I'm sure if we saw it in a theater, it'd be tremendous. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot, and a lot of us weren't alone. There was a lot of complaining online. It's like, for real, what's going on? Like for me, it was the worst it was during the big dragon fight because I knew cool things were happening, but I couldn't quite figure out what they were until what's-his-face got his neck ripped out, and that was pretty cool.
Well, I liked the idea of, like, this is a battle that takes place entirely at night in a snowstorm. Like, they can't really see, so it makes sense that we're right there with them in the, like, chaos and confusion.
Yeah.
But like as a TV show, I wanted to see.
Yeah. That was my one real surprise was like
Winter's
they're
here.
bringing the winter with them.
When did the Night King become Storm? Like have we seen that happen before?
But it is interesting that he is he is magical. We've established that he is magical. He has abilities. You know, he's clearly the source of the rest of these entities. So it didn't feel like that and him being able to survive the dragon fire.
That was crazy.
Didn't feel completely. I think they said in the little behind the episode thing, it's like there's no reason to think that it wouldn't affect him, but there's also no reason to think it would. We don't know his rules, and we have seen when he walks through fire, the fire kind of like dies down.
But speaking of that, I did like when you can kind of see the only time Bran we see him warging somewhere. The only way we were able to track what he did at any point was when he used the ravens to go follow the Night King a little bit. And you see he's like, okay, now we're gonna just sacrifice whites because of course he is. You have millions of people that you can just throw down as extinguishers.
Oh, when they like World War Z over the trenches.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What a nightmare. There was that was I think that was the effective part of the decisions of how to display the battle because there was so many times I'm like, this is for real though. This is a nightmare. Like I don't know what you do. You like, and especially once the Night King does his signature move, and like all the people that just because. It doesn't. Cool. We've got Dragonglass and we've got Valyrian Steel, so we're taking out the whites. We're taking them out, but that's not accounting. We're not going back and like stabbing our dead. Like, hey, don't come back, man.
We don't know if that's going to do anything either.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe it's not until they come back, and then because we talked about the crypts and whether that would work or not. But once he does it, you're like, it's just the dead in the vicinity. Like what? What do you do?
No, that moment when he all like Evita's up all the dead people, all I could think was, man, I love playing the necromancer in Diablo games. Man, I'm so badass as a necromancer because you can do that. You're just like, oh, all you're dead, they're mine.
Suck it.
Pretty cool.
It's terrifying.
Speaking of dead, though, we lost not that many people in this episode. We lost a lot of
extras. Unnamed characters. A lot of Northerners bit it.
A lot of Northerners. like we said, all the Dothraki, basically. There was a few that came back running and screaming. And once the Dothraki are running afraid, they're like, oh, no. And it looked like a good chunk of the Unsullied are no longer. But props to them, by the way, that like holding the line, like, man, you guys are not afraid of anything, because I would have bailed quick.
The overview visual we have of them opening, letting people retreat, and then closing back up again, I'm like, yeah, you guys aren't going to make it. But great for Grey Worm. He was right up front, and he lasted a long time. Also, props to Jorah, because he was with the Dothraki who came back, and then he just, like, was booking it back, and he somehow made it, even though he shouldn't have probably. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
I felt that a lot in this episode. I was like, a lot of the characters we know somehow made it, even though they shouldn't have.
Well, can
Sam. I love Sam, but he was rolling around on the ground.
Sam shouldn't have made it.
He was like...
I will say, for characters like Jorah, I think there is an argument that could be made, if you wanted to, that these are the most experienced people, and they've dealt with this before.
They haven't dealt with this before.
But like, some of them were at Hardhome. Some of them have been pitched battles. Sam doesn't make any sense. Sam 100% should have been in the crypt. But you have the people that we lost, right?
Oh yeah, no, I have the list, but mentioning up top, the one who's the most brutal is Lyanna Mormont. She went out in a cool way, but hot dang, good for you.
It could have been worse, man.
That was real sad. Also, let's just R.I.P. House Mormont, huh?
Yeah, they're all gone. And also, you know what, Theon, I give him his due, because he's been pretty awful all the way around on this show, but he got a pretty good out. But overall, we lost.
Actually, real quick, just pause on that. That actually made me pretty emotional. When Bran's like, Theon, you're a good man. It's like, oh, that's all he's ever wanted. Oh,
it is all he ever wanted.
I don't know if it's true, but it's all he's ever wanted.
No, we're lying on your way out, but you've murdered children just to look good. So you're not a great dude. Yeah. Also, I always will remember.
And the worst. The worst.
It's the worst. Oh yeah, but we lost Dolorous Edd. Oh no, and then we have Lyanna Mormont, Beric Dondarrion, Theon Greyjoy, of course, the Night King. He died in a really cool way. Jorah Mormont and Melisandre. That's it, really. Melisandre and Jorah are the only one. I mean, Theon too.
It's crazy that list of people is like, oh, not that many. It's like, that's actually pretty crazy, especially when the Night King has been one of our big bads since like the beginning of the show. But again, everybody was there, and so you thought like, more.
Yeah. I definitely thought we were going to lose somebody huge. And I would say out of this list, I wouldn't argue that any of them are huge. And when I say huge, I mean like Stark, Targaryen, Lannister, huge characters.
I guess maybe Jorah, just because he's the last Mormont, but also Mormont is like, it's not like,
Jorah,
it's your C-list house.
I think we feel that way kind of too, because Jorah and Theon have kind of been done for a minute. Like they've, they haven't mattered as much for a while now. Mm-hmm. Especially Beric. Yeah, I guess
he got a really good out. Like him holding the wall for them, and he was just taking a lot of punishment.
Well, and then they were saying that like the reason he was brought back so many times was for that moment to save Arya so that she could fulfill the prophecy.
And I like that it was something small. I like that it wasn't like he blows up the Night King or something. It's literally just saving the one person. That was it. Mm-hmm. And then you move on, and then it gave us Arya's so cool. It was so cool moment. I also liked Jon got some cool moments too. He had one of my favorite moments when his dragon, he crash lands. I thought that was cool. It's the dragon's trying to like do its thing, but eventually it just gacks out. Mm-hmm. And then he's just trying to hoof it through as the Night King's raising the dead. He's just trying to book it to him last minute. Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
With that, there's a similar scene in another zombie movie with Train to Busan where you have zombies trying to take over a helicopter, and as it's trying to take off, it's dropping more, and they get back up and they're going after people. The dragon's shaking off the dead. Yeah, Dany's dragon shaking off the dead and dropping them in the middle of battle. It's like, wow, this is the worst it could possibly be, right?
And also, Dany got her first. She's actually shoulder to shoulder with Jorah, doing her best to, like, with a dragonglass sword, trying to survive. Just trying to survive.
That's when you're like, she's a good ruler. Mm-hmm. She's not a good warrior.
Without
her dragon, that's kind of rough.
Yeah. Okay, last thing I want to ask, where do you think, because we have a question about this when we get to our Patreon segment as well, boom. Yeah. Where do you think Bran was warging after the Ravens? There's no way he was tracking with the Night King with birds the whole time.
I don't think there's no way. He might have been.
He was like, well, there's a different bird over there. He's probably got a different
bird. I think he was off doing bird stuff.
Can you imagine? He was like, yeah, there's like a flock heading east right now. It was pretty interesting.
He's just in bird VR having a great time.
Also, I had a thought for a moment.
It is bird VR. It's bird simulator.
I'd also like to point out, I was for a moment I thought like, what they're up to in Karth when this whole nightmare is happening. Like I was trying to think the most far away place in the world, not even considering what's happening. And so like maybe he just went to Karth to hang out for a minute and drink that whatever that blueberry juice is that makes their lips or whatever.
Yummy.
He's just chilling where it's warm.
Maybe he took over an elephant.
Yummy.
And he was like, all right, I was doing the elephants. They're definitely on the show. We're never going to see them, but I saw them, so don't worry.
Yeah.
They're there. Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah.
One of the things we didn't talk about yet that I want to get in there before we wrap things up is the scenes between Sansa and Tyrion in this episode. I thought were really wonderful because there was so much chaos and there was so much battle and there weren't people we love on both sides. I felt like this show kind of struggled in its storytelling to give us those individual moments. Yeah. But having that moment between Tyrion and Sansa where they're staring down the face of death legit in the crypts and he's like, maybe we should have stayed married, and she says, you were the best of them. I mean, that's so sad, but it's definitely true.
It's 100% true. And I also like, that also gets a good moment from Melisandre when Sansa's like, oh yeah, the Dragon Queen. And Melisandre's like, oh yeah, the Dragon Queen. So glad she didn't, like, what if she didn't show up? You know what I mean? And I wish we'd gotten more, I think you're right, Trisha. I wish we'd gotten more crypt stuff, because I think that's one of the highlights of Blackwater is whenever you cut to Sansa and Cercei in the crypt, because there's so many dynamics going on, and I think it would have been cool to see that in the crypts as well.
I wanted to see more Jaime and Brienne fighting back to back. I wanted to see the characters that I care about. Not to say that the World War Z stuff wasn't cool, because it definitely was, and it was terrifying. But yeah, those individual moments are where Game of Thrones as a show shines for me, and I was missing a little bit of that.
Yeah, and I think for me, it makes me more excited for the next 3 episodes, because now this threat's out of the way. Which, by the way, I'm just petty enough to be like, who pointed out that maybe the Night King was going to be taken out early in the season? Wait, who was that? Anyway, and now it's Cercei and her whole mess. And then if you saw the preview for the next episode where Dany's like, we what did they call this war? We ended the Great War. We won the Great War. Now time to win the last war. Like, whoa. Slow your roll. That's a little too confident. Yeah. Like it's a little too confident.
All of your troops are gone.
Yeah, you might want to be. I mean, I know you're supposed to put on a brave face for your people, but like you seem a little too sure of yourself.
Lastly, a little fun piece of trivia. It took 55 nights to film this episode, and there were over 750 cast and crew members to make this happen. And if you should go online, I highly recommend reading some of the accounts of the actors saying it was the worst thing they've ever had to shoot. Full stop, period. Because it's like you can't get sick. It's multiple nights. You start losing track of what time feels like, because you're not spending any time in the daylight, because you can't. You have to sleep during the day. Yeah. And I think it's somebody threw out a fact that it might be the biggest battle that has ever been caught on for film or television. Now, I couldn't back that up. The other facts I could. That one I couldn't back up. But if that's true, it's pretty cool. But also, gang, we do an extra segment of this show over on our Patreon, and we have a very special guest joining us. And you should take a little look at the clip right here.
There's also briefly mentioned in the book about a horn that can control krackens, which is a thing Euron might have. And like, I would love to see like a dragon flies above the water.
Dragon on kraken fight.
To go light Euron ships in fire, and then like kraken tentacles, and then like kraken dragon fight.
Yeah, so meet us over on Patreon. You can click right up here to find that. But before we do that, let's rate this episode out of 10 big hordes of zombies. There we go. There's the whatever. What would you give it?
I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Even though I wanted more individual character moments, I still think it was a brilliant piece of cinematography, and they did an amazing job conveying just how horrific and chaotic this battle is.
For me, I'd give it an 8. Yeah,
I gave it a 7.5 as well. I did nothing. I was lucky enough. I didn't want to brag during the review, but I was lucky enough to watch it in a dark room, so I didn't know what people were talking about. But so I was. It was a depressing Sunday, so it was perfect for watching Game of Thrones. So I was able to catch most of everything that was happening. Big props. My favorite shot is the dragons above the clouds, so you can actually the moon is lighting them, and you can see what's happening. Super cool. And the Night King just taking full force of dragon fire to his face and not being affected. Super fun. But gang, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and comment down below. Make sure you follow us on all the appropriate social medias. Trisha, where can they find you?
You can find me at @GRLTrish on all the socials except for Twitch and YouTube, where it's Trisha Hirschberger.
There you go. I'm the DJ Talks Trash.
At Sam Basher and at Might Be Social. And make sure you subscribe for more content. We have deep dives and explainers coming very soon, as well as more reviews. Make sure you check out our Avengers review. We did a deep dive into Mortal Kombat 11 and violent video games and Avengers Infinity War, gang. It's been a blast. We hope you enjoy, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.